Hello there, my dear ones. Welcome back. It's wonderful to see you. Welcome to our second Christmas episode for 2024. How are you all on this chilly winter day? How are your Christmas preparations going? Are you one of those organized folks who have everything ready beforehand? Or are you, like me, always running out for a last-minute gift? Today's poems are different, but beautiful. The first poem concerns a young girl named Becky, who struggles to find the Christmas spirit after losing her beloved grandmother. Poem 2 concerns the meeting of misery and magic, where a troubled boy comes face to face with the Santa he no longer believes in. So, make your preparations. Pop your popcorn, pour your hot chocolate, turn your fire up, and get ready for another dose of Christmas wonder. Becky's Christmas Miracle. The little girl sits on her mother's doorstep. The smell of winter snow is in the air. All of her friends are excited for Christmas. But this year, Becky cannot seem to care. Last summer, her beloved grandma, A.D., had quite unexpectedly passed away. Ever since her funeral, poor young Becky has seen the world in varied shades of gray. Now, there's only a week to go until Christmas. Becky's parents took her to town to see a Santa's helper in red suit and jacket, who'd asked her, "What's your Christmas wish? Tell me." Speaking the truth, she'd told the kindly old man, "I want my grandma to come home to me." It didn't happen, and since then, poor Becky has barely had strength to stand correctly. What is the point in Christmas? Becky wonders. When those you love can vanish and be dead. Lights, trees, and candy have no potency when those who should be around the tree have fled. Her mom and dad have done their best to help her. But though they've tried, not one word has hit home. Becky walks through a world devoid of color. And even in a crowd, she feels alone. Now, something strange twinkles upon the white snow. It's like sunlight hours after nightfall. Out of the light runs a bedraggled puppy, 12 inches long and just 2 handspans tall. He finds Becky and clambers into her lap. Becky has not the heart to turn away. A little life so wet and cold, so Becky wraps it in her sweater. It's cold and gray, but soon she has the trembling puppy cozy. It looks like it has run through a snowstorm, though no new snow has fallen since the morning, and the wind has been still since early dawn. Aware that the pup requires warmth and safety, Becky stands up and carries her inside. The two sit by the tree, lit by colored lights, till Daddy finds them by the fireside. To her surprise, he doesn't say that Becky will have to send the little pup away. Instead, he finds a cardboard box and blankets and says that the little pupper can stay here by the hearth, at least until the morning. He even allows Becky to bed down with sleeping bag and pillow on the lounge floor. "Call me if you need me, and I'll come down," he tells Becky. "Tomorrow, we'll look closer to see what else for the pup we can do. But don't get too invested in the poor thing. I don't want something else upsetting you." So, Becky sits awake beside the puppy. It looks at her out of its wet brown eyes. At one point, Becky dozes there on the floor and wakes, filled with delight and great surprise, to find the little creature licking her face, yapping softly, her body quivering. Now that she's dry, the pup is caramel brown. Her eyes are shining gold and shimmering. Becky gently lifts the pup and cuddles her. Sweet girl, how did you find your way to me? The puppy turns, and Becky sees a name tag. It reads, "Pleased to meet you. My name's Adie." A voice speaks behind Becky, warm, familiar. "I'm sorry, I could not come back to you for more than the briefest of moments tonight. But even though all people must pass through and on to heaven, doesn't mean there's no joy to be found when Christmas shines beautifully. There's so much more to the season than you know. Christmas has always meant so much to me because it's more than good food and presents shared in the lights underneath the Christmas tree. It is the memories we make together and carry on with us eternally. When people leave or pass into forever, we carry memories with us along. So, though our arms may still yearn to embrace them, deep down, we know they're never really gone. As for me, I was allowed to speak to you, so that you would not mourn so bitterly. Adie here needs a home. She is your present, a Christmas gift from God's angels and me." Becky looks around, but there's nothing to see. Only a swift movement in the warm air, a whisper of a voice always beloved, and the sense of something still almost there. The next day, Becky finds out, to her surprise, that color has come back into the world. Better, she's allowed to keep the pup Adie, who's quickly becoming her entire world. Now, though her heart still aches for Grandma Adie, Becky senses that she's always nearby, as close to her as her very next heartbeat, as bright as the stars in the winter sky. Santa's slave. I was the worst boy in the entire town, at least to hear what other people said. I was the rough kid, the scoundrel, the bully, who bit any kind hand you extended. I'd been punished 100 times for fighting, and often stole other boys' lunch money. I don't deny it, although if I'm honest, I never spent a single cent on me. Do you think I'm a liar? I'm not surprised. Whoever robs others for a good cause. I was no Robin Hood, giving to the poor. And I was sure not worthy of applause. I took the money because I needed it, to buy foodstuffs for my sister and I. We had a mom and dad, at least on paper, but it had been months since they had stopped by. So much, so that I couldn't remember when. The last time was they'd shared a meal with me. They paid the rent, I think. We'd not been cast out. But life at home was miles from easy. I skipped my breakfast every other morning. On weekends, dry cereal was a treat. But I saw that Jenny ate every morning. I stole, so she would have shoes on her feet. I fixed the holes in Jenny's school uniform. I saw that she bathed, and I brushed her hair. When she had nightmares, I shared a bed with her. She clung to me and called me Teddy Bear. Oh, didn't I tell you? That's another joke. My, oh so lovely parents pressed on me. They could have named me John, Bob, Fred, or Buster. But no, they saddled me with damn Teddy. Of course, I went by Ted or Mason at school, although I despised my own damned surname. It was better than being called a toy bear. I'd burn anyone who used it in flames. Until I turned 12, I'd managed only just to stay out of bad trouble with the law. When I went shoplifting for food or loo paper and other sundries, no one ever saw my face underneath a hat and a long scarf. I could run quick and always got away. I should have known luck wouldn't last forever, and eventually I'd have to pay for all my deeds. But fool I was, I didn't. I continued to bite and scrap and strive, to distract with all of my worst behavior. From the fact I fought just to stay alive. Myself and Jenny. No one got to know that I cared for anyone or anything. The only way for me to get what I need was to keep all the others trembling. In the month that I, at last, reached 12 full years, December brought something we'd both lament. Apparently, our folks, wherever they'd gone, had grown tired of supplying our rent. We got a red letter from the town council, demanding a payment immediately, of a sum too high to be calculated. I had nowhere near that sort of money. Of course, if I should fail to make the payment, the law would find me and my sweet Jenny. They would find out our parents had absconded, and they would take Jenny away from me. I was chilled by the thought of an orphanage, a place where Jenny, scared and all alone, would no longer have someone to protect her. The idea froze my spirit, cold as stone, especially as it was now December. Our Christmases had never been perfect, but I'd always managed to find a few things to hide in Jenny's stocking while she slept. I knew how much kids needed Christmas magic because I'd never known that glow myself. That's why I had never complained all the years. I'd found myself cosplaying Santa's elf. If I allowed people in suits and jackets to shatter what we had of family, Christmas for Jenny would be ruined always, and there would be no one to blame but me. So I needed to find the money somewhere, but there was only one place in my town where I could possibly find many hundreds. As a lone, scruffy kid all on my own, I happened to know of a rough family, all of them near famous for thievery. They were dangerous men. They'd been in prison. They also kept amounts of cash money hidden away inside an old back bedroom. Usually, none would dare to enter it. But I had pricked my ears to a new rumor. The family would leave town for a bit to visit London folk over Christmas time. While they were in the city with their kin, there was a chance, albeit quite a slim one, that a young kid with quick hands could break in. So, after I had bid Jenny a good night and sent her off to bed on Christmas Eve, I slipped out of the house with tools and a hammer. I would have prayed to God if I believed. I had my route planned out, over the porch roof, through the broken window into the hall, and down to the end, where the cash room waited, promising that it would supply all that I dreamed of. The first part went smoothly. I slipped into the hall, walked carefully, on velvet feet along into the cash room. A voice greeted, looking for somebody. I froze. Terror and horror thundered through me. I'd stepped into the dragon's den alone, and now I'd come face to face with my own end. Because one of the gangster men was home. The man appeared. To me, he was a giant. A punch to the gut drove the wind from me. Moments later, my hands and feet were tied tight. I am going to get my family, the vast man said. You stay here and imagine all of the gruesome things we'll do to you. When the police finally find your body, they likely will not identify you. The door was closed and locked. I leaned on the wall, my head downcast, eyes streaming miserably. I didn't try to kid myself with false hope. The dangerous men meant to destroy me. I was afraid for myself, but more than that, I thought of Jenny, fast asleep at home. What would she think, waking on Christmas morning, to find out that she had been left all alone? She'd believe I had left her, like our parents, that she was one not deserving to be loved and wanted supported and protected. She'd grow bitter with the hating of me. My time in that room seemed to last forever. Yet somehow, it was too short for me, too. My throat tightened when a key turned in the lock, and a rough voice declared, "Come out with you." The room was dark. I only saw a shadow of a tall man, strong, broad-chested, portly. Had the first man called up his own patriarch? If so, this really was the end of me. The light went on. I looked up in confusion. No thug in jeans and short vest met my eye, but a man in scarlet, his beard full and white. Just like the man who, some said, rode the sky on Christmas night. But I could not believe that. I raised my head and then smirked cheekily. "So," I said, "the Fosters sent me a fat one. I guess you're here to make an end of me." The old guy tilted his head in confusion. "Ending is not a thing I ever do. But I may be able to save your young skin if I find it is worthwhile to help you." "What do you mean?" I spoke, but my heart fluttered. Hope slipped in where it had not been before. "Your name is Teddy, right?" "Sorry, I mean Ted. And since my name is something you deplore, I'll let you call me Sir." Of course, Santa Claus is the accurate way to speak to me. "Still, Sir will do for our purposes tonight. Tell me now just what you will give to me if I am to surround you with my magic and free you from the angry family who are racing home right now to do you harm." "What do you want?" I challenged. "Slavery." "What?" I asked. "I need a servant," the man said. "Someone to do what I do not want to. Someone to strike whenever it's my fancy. I think that the position might suit you." "Screw off." I spoke the insult without thinking. My heart sank deep as the man turned away. "Wait," I called. "Are you some kind of creeper, man?" "No, son, I don't want to take you away. To make of you the kind of slave who is used to make sport with in an unwanted bed. I want hard work and the license to beat you whenever you do wrong," the stranger said. My mind was racing. I could scarcely breathe now. "There is," I said, "something you have to know. I was not here tonight because I'm greedy. There is someone who'll suffer if I go. I have a little sister. She's called Jenny. Our parents left us behind years ago. We had a demand for rent we could not pay. I was desperate to get some quick dough. If I haven't gone mad tonight, and you're real, I would be crazy not to go with you. But you must promise Jenny will be okay, that she will find someone to help her through." Sir seemed to think about that. He bowed his head. "We've little time. I'll make a deal with you. Agree to be my slave for the next decade. And your sister Jenny can come with you. Don't worry, Jenny will not be a servant. My dear wife will adopt her as her own. Jenny will learn to disdain you and shun you. But, as you asked, she will not be alone." 10 years? I repeated. "A little over. If you're meek and hard-working as can be, and don't complain when we chastise and beat you, I'll release you when you are 23. When that happens, you will make a decision. Either you can make the North Pole your home, or I will carry you back to the real world, where you may carry on your life alone." I tried to think. I was a 12-year-old kid. To me, 10 years was an eternity. But if I waited here, I was sure to die. And what if, in pain, I spoke of Jenny? I was in the home of cruel, evil people. They'd feel no qualm if thinking it was true that Jenny would go to the authorities. They broke into our house and killed her too. I accept, I began. I accept, sir. Santa broke in. I accept, sir, I said, hating the words, but forcing my lips to speak. Before we two were both found and shot dead. I am your slave, sir, I managed, but let's go. Let's leave this place and go and get Jenny. If you would, tell her that she has a good home. At least one of us siblings is lucky. No sooner said than done. Sir nodded his head. And we were aloft, flying in his sleigh. I looked around myself, in wide-eyed wonder, bewildered as to what to do or say. In the end, I heard myself say, I'm sorry, sir, that I never did believe in you. In fact, I did for a while. When I was 6, I sat awake all night waiting for you. I wanted to ask you to help both of us, to bring Jenny and me a family. Or, if you could not, at least to protect us from Father's fists when he became angry. When you didn't show up on that Christmas night, I said that I did not believe in you. It was easier than thinking you'd ignore cries for help when we so much needed you. Don't get me wrong. I know I am the bad one. Everyone in town knows that about me. But Jenny is the sweetest girl ever made. She doesn't deserve all this misery. I guess that's the first thing to punish you for. Teddy, the slave who tried to be a thief. I'll write it in the book in bold black letters. Crime 1 and abject failure of belief. I hung my head and told myself in future not to speak unless I was instructed, or else I would bring further pain, raining down upon my weary and unprepared head. When we appeared in Jenny's room, however, her pale gray eyes near sparkled with delight. The more so when I told her that old Santa had come to take us both on a long flight. I wrapped her tight in a coat, gloves, and slippers. She settled down in the sleigh next to me and gasped and smiled to see the streets below us. The towns and countries passed by so quickly. We reached our new home as the dawn was cresting. The poles sparkled, radiant in the light. Sir said he'd take Jenny to see her new room. She must be tired after her long night. Jenny looked confused. This was what I dreaded. I watched, silent, as she asked about me. I prayed she wouldn't make the big man angry when she heard I'd been sold to slavery. Instead, Jenny stood up and hugged me tightly. She faced old Santa Claus and said, "Take me. I know Teddy did bad things, but he only did them so that he could take care of me. Teddy is good. He hates frightening people. I've heard him crying to himself at night. If he is a servant, then I must be, too. I am his sister. Nothing else is right." I braced myself for anger or hot outrage. To put myself in front of dear Jenny. I was still her big brother, whatever else. And if Sir wanted to hurt somebody, he'd have to accept me. But old Santa laughed. He shook, shuddered and guffawed, slapped his leg, and seemed transported by loud gales of laughter. Finally, I told him, "I will not beg, but I ask you to keep the promise you made. I have earned whatever you do to me. But Jenny is a good girl, and she deserves, in her new home, to be always happy. So do you, son," Santa said. "You have done wrong, but most who knew your tale would forgive you. You did what you did to protect your sister. Even now, you would make a slave of you to see her safe. But you are no servant, Ted. You have a room right here, next to Jenny. And if you will bestow on me the honor, I wish for you to be a son to me." I blinked at him. I shivered and blinked again. My eyes rolled back in my head. The world turned. The next thing I knew, I was warm in a bed, Santa beside me. That was when I learned that Jenny had written a dozen letters to Santa, begging him to rescue me from what I had to do to clothe and feed us. At first, he'd tried to help indirectly, but all the people who should have helped us failed. They were overburdened, burned out, weary. So, after years of hoping for mortal aid, Santa had come to find Jenny and me. It turned out that, over the long centuries, Santa and his darling wife, Enya Jo, had taken in and raised many poor children who had been left with nowhere else to go. Santa had been confident Jenny would be a good daughter, but not yet about me. So he had tested my nature by saying, to save her would make a slave out of me. When I said I'd do anything for Jenny, he'd known that her vision of me was true. So Santa said, if you want and forgive me, I'd like to try to be a dad to you. So that was how the worst kid in the whole town became a part of a saint's family. Now, Jenny and I are safe, warm and happy. Our Christmases are joyful as can be. Subscribe to become a delicious darling. Hello again, dear ones. Welcome back. How did you enjoy the episode? What did you think of the first poem? Did Becky get a visit from her grandmother, who gave her a puppy to ease her grief? Or did the sad girl simply have a dream? What about the second poem? Would Father Christmas really threaten a young man with slavery? Has he really adopted lonely children throughout history? What do you think? Today's word for those who made it through the episode is star. Please leave it in the comments and tell me which gift you hope to receive this Christmas. As always, please click like or follow and hit the notification bell to be notified of all our new episodes. Doing so will make you an official delicious darling and a welcome part of our little family. Tonight, I am off to a candlelit carol concert. I can't wait to hear the choir's pure voices rising into the winter air. There is something about Christmas carols that lifts my soul and brings the Christmas spirit rising in my heart. Keep warm and safe over the next week. Enjoy your Christmas preparations and sleep well, my delicious darlings.